My Hero Academia. Chapter 422, spoilers are here. In this chapter, we see the entirety of Class 1, a work together to fight All for One and protect Deku. All Might gives a strong and emotional statement, and we see an amazing build-up for the upcoming fight between All for One and Deku. So sit back, relax, and let's go through it all. First, since the last chapter was released 2 weeks ago, let me remind you where we left things off. In the recent chapters, we discovered that All for One orchestrated every trauma Tenko went through in order to create the perfect vessel for him. He took his innate quirk and replaced it with decay, which he specifically engineered for him to destroy everything he touches, including his family. Deku, after losing both of his hands and One for All, is saved by Professor Aizawa, who brought Eri's horn with him and used it to rewind his state. However, he will need a couple of minutes to rewind and recover. Also, every available hero comes to help fight All for One, including the majority of Class 1A. This was a brief summary of where we left things off. Now, Chapter 4, 122 begins with Aoyama falling behind because All for One's tentacles destroyed a piece of the ground, but he tells Deku to keep running. Aizawa tries asking Shirakumo to open another portal, but realizes that he has no strength left to use his quirk. The heroes keep attacking, including Mawata Fuwa, but the attacks don't work on All for One. Aizawa tells them all to clear a path for Deku to reach Shigaraki, and, at the same time, All for One prepares to use the full release of all quirk factors. If you remember, this is the final attack he used against Bakugo. All for One says it will be different from the time he used this attack against Bakugo, because now he's no longer overcome by emotions. He's going to condense all his power and release it. He shoots a laser at Deku, but Hagakure reflects it. Momo builds a railgun, and Kaminari charges it with his electricity to fire at All for One, but he blocks it. All for One launches more black tentacles, and Deku is about to punch them with One for All, but several other students destroy them and tell him to not waste his energy yet. The students here are Sato, Sero, Koda, Ojiro, Shishida, Shiozaki, and Haibara. Shoji holds Deku with one of his arms and Tsuyu with her tongue. Tsuyu's family and the girl Shoji saved in the past are watching the broadcast and see them fighting. The two of them throw Deku forward, and he finally manages to call Tsuyu, Tsuyu-chan, and here we get one of the best wholesome moments of the series. I mean, it took 422 chapters for Deku to call her Tsuyu-chan, which is something that she was asking for from the start of the series. This also reminds us that the end is near. We are really at the end of My Hero Academia. Also, this interaction is one of my favorite to see animated, but we all know that we'll have to wait another year for that. Anyway, Kirishima and Ishido block a big attack while their friends from middle school are watching and shouting their names. All the previous panels highlight the teamwork of Class 1A, and I think this is one of the main factors that make My Hero Academia special. We, the entire class, work together, not 3 or 5 characters. The entire class has a role, and each character has its unique development and importance in the story. Next, All for One doesn't understand why these heroes who can barely move won't die. He then remembers what he said about Deku in the Vestiges, about him being useless. All for One finally understands that Deku's weakness is something that All Might didn't have, and that's what makes his friends get up over and over again. Gentle makes him a trampoline, Death Arms says he can do it, Tokoyami wishes him good luck from Gunga, and Ida takes his hand. All for One tries to use another attack, but the hole in his hand starts to bleed and he gets confused. We see the US pilots tending to All Might's wounds, and he says that seeing Deku running that day was what allowed him to do the same. It was at that moment that Deku became... The scene is cut here, and we switch to Melissa, who wishes Deku good luck, and in the next panel, we see Rody and Pino doing the same. Ida tells Deku that he now understands what Uraraka meant on their first day at UA, about the nickname Deku, making her think of do your best. We see Ochako in the helicopter with Pixie Bob as she opens her eyes and whispers, "You can do it." The US president orders all of their heroes to be sent to Japan, and we see panels of different characters saying, "Do your best," Eri, Kota, Tsukochi, etc. And while I think that the fight will be over before the US heroes arrive, I really like the fact that the US president now has faith in our heroes and believes that they can win this. Remember that in the previous chapter, the United States was ready to work with All for One if he wins the war. In fact, most of the other countries were waiting for the result of the war, and they wouldn't mind working with All for One. It's the hard work and sacrifices of our heroes that convinced the United States president that they can win and they deserve to be helped. Next, we see All Might raises his arm and sees an image of Deku running towards the sky. He then continues, "On that day, you became my greatest hero." The last spread shows Inko cheering on her son while Deku lands a punch on All for One. Chapter 422, Izuku Midoriya, Rising. This chapter had an amazing build-up sequence for the final fight between Deku and All for One. A lot of heroes, especially students of Class 1A, which highlighted their growth throughout the series and their importance. I mean, they are not just filler characters, they added real value in the last fight of the manga. However, I think the next chapter will be about Deku versus All for One. It appears that we'll see Deku fight All for One from the inside, and he will try to reach Tenko to help him take control. Anyway, this chapter ended volume 41, so I think it's pretty safe to say volume 42 will be the last volume. In my opinion, the final fight will at maximum take another 7 to 10 chapters. We'll see Deku go inside Tenko's memories and try to save and empower him, and after All for One is defeated, we'll get a couple of chapters to end the series, and that's it. I can't believe that we're that close to the complete ending of My Hero Academia. On the other hand, I can't wait to watch this fight animated. This entire war would be crazy to watch. However, as I said earlier, we'll have to wait another year for that. And for now, just enjoy the manga. This chapter was amazing and I can't wait to see what happens next, especially after the fact that we'll get another chapter next week. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.